The silence before the storm. The stars above Aurealis burned pale blue, cold against the black. From the surface, it looked distant, safe. But everyone in the city of Kelmer knew the truth warships drifted just beyond the sky, patient, waiting for Earth to surrender. Kalen Trask sat on the edge of a rusted platform, his boots dangling over empty air. He was human, one of the very few left on Aurealis after the Keth Dominion's occupation. Once he had been a soldier. Now he was just another exile, another scarred man with no home. The wind howled across the alien skyline, carrying dust from the white salt plains. Below him, the city bustled in uneasy silence, alien merchants whispering instead of shouting, doors closing before sunset, every soul waiting for the hammer to fall. "They still think you'll bow," said a voice beside him. Kalen glanced over. It was Rin, his closest friend in this broken world. She was Orilan, tall and slender, her skin like glassy quartz that shimmered faintly in the light. Her large, luminous eyes caught every detail, and her voice carried a mournful weight. "Don't know humans," Kalen said quietly. He lit a salvaged match, watching the flame dance. "We don't bow easy." Rin tilted her head, studying him. "The Dominion says Earth has no fleet left. That your kind is scattered and broken." Kalen exhaled smoke. "That's what they want you to think." He didn't say more. He couldn't not yet dot above them. The sky flared. Massive shadows cut across the stars as another Dominion cruiser entered orbit. Its hull gleamed like obsidian, etched with crimson lights. The Oriolans stopped what they were doing and looked up, their bodies trembling with a silent, instinctive fear. A booming voice echoed across the city, projected from the cruiser itself. "Peoples of Aurealis, the cycle of patience nears its end. Earth has 3 days to surrender. If they do not, the Dominion will burn their colonies, their allies, and their scattered remnants into ash. Choose your loyalties carefully." Kalen clenched his fists. His jaw tightened. He could feel every Orilan eye on him, weighing him, judging the lone human in their midst. Rin whispered, "If what they say is true, you will lose everything." Kellen's eyes stayed fixed on the warship above. "Maybe," he said softly. "Or maybe they have no idea what's coming." That night, Kalen walked the dark streets alone. Memories haunted him, flashes of Earth's burning cities, the endless evacuation ships, the Dominion's fire raining down. Humanity had been cornered, yes, but cornered animals fought the hardest dot at a hidden tunnel carved beneath the salt cliffs. Kalen stopped. He scanned the shadows, then tapped a sequence against a steel plate. 3 short, 2 long, 1 short. The wall hissed, splitting open. Inside was a cavern filled with faint blue lights. And in that cavern, silent and waiting, were humans. Hundreds, dozens, the remnants of Earth's scattered soldiers and engineers. Eyes hard, faces scarred, but alive. A woman with a mechanical arm stepped forward. Commander Elara Vance. Her voice was sharp as steel. "You've seen the broadcast?" Kalen nodded. 3 days. Her lips curled into a grim smile. "Then it's time." The cavern lights shifted, revealing what they had hidden all along. At first glance, it was darkness itself, shapes that seemed to drink the light around them. Hulls painted in void. Warships, sleek, angular, silent predators built from human desperation and genius. The Shadow Fleet. Kellen's chest tightened. At the sight, humanity's secret answer. Ships hidden in forgotten dimensions of folded space, undetectable to Dominion sensors. They had been waiting for this very moment, but Alara's voice cut through his awe. "Kalen, your part begins now. You're the one they watch, the one they doubt. Use that. Keep them blind while we prepare." Kalen met her gaze. "And when the timer runs out?" Her smile was thin and merciless. "Then the galaxy will remember what it means to fear humans." The chains of occupation, the Dominion's grip on Aurealis, tightened with every passing hour. The streets of Kelmer crawled with armored patrols. Their soldiers, towering insectoid beings with obsidian shells, marched in rigid formations, their clawed feet clicking against the stone. The air reeked of oil and ozone from their hovering drones, buzzing like locusts above the markets. Where once Oriolans had sung as they traded in the open squares, now silence reigned. Doors shut when the Dominion passed. Families whispered indoors. Even the children, whose laughter once echoed through narrow alleys, no longer dared to play outside. Kalen walked among them, the lone human face in a city ruled by fear. His clothes were worn, his boots caked with salt dust. He carried himself with the slouched posture of someone broken, someone harmless. The Dominion let him be publicly, at least not privately. Their suspicion had grown. That morning, Kalen found himself dragged into the garrison hall. The chamber was dim, lit by the crimson glow of Dominion banners that hung like torn flesh across the walls. A Keth officer sat waiting, his 6 insectal eyes gleaming. His mandibles clicked as Kalen was shoved before him. "Human," the officer hissed, voice translated through a metallic filter. "You move freely among the Oriolans. Too freely. We wonder why." Kalen forced a tired grin. "Because I don't." "Matter. Your masters already broke my people, didn't they?" The officer's eyes narrowed. His claw tapped the table slowly, deliberately. "Perhaps, or perhaps you cling to hope. Perhaps you hide something." Kalen met his stare without blinking. "If I was hiding anything, do you think I'd still be here? Alone? Starving in your streets?" The officer studied him for a long, tense moment. Then he gestured, and the guards shoved Kalen back toward the door dot as he stumbled into the daylight. Kalen allowed himself a single exhale of relief. Close. Too close. That evening, Kalen met Rin near the water pumps, where the Oriolans gathered, silently for their rationed supplies. The Dominion had cut water to half the city, forcing long queues that stretched through alleys. Guards watched every face, their rifles glinting. Rin carried a ceramic jug, her expression distant. Kalen fell and stepped beside her. "They dragged you in again," she murmured, her voice low. He nodded. Same questions, same suspicion. Her eyes flicked to his. "And one day you won't walk out." He shrugged. "One day comes for all of us." But Rin didn't smile. She stopped walking, her jug trembling slightly in her hands. "Kalen, they executed my brother last cycle." Asterisk, the words hit him harder than a blade. Rin's gaze was fixed on the dust between her feet. He spoke out in the square. "Just once. Just once. They made me watch. Made all of us watch." Her voice cracked. "They burned him in their light, and then they left his ashes in the wind, as a reminder." Kalen swallowed hard, anger boiling in his chest. He wanted to promise her revenge. He wanted to scream at the stars. But all he said was, "I'm sorry." Rin finally looked at him, her eyes glimmering with unshed tears. "If there's anything you're hiding, anything at all, tell me." "Because I can't," she broke off, her throat tightening. "I can't keep living like this." Kalen hesitated. Ilara's orders echoed in his mind. Keep them blind until it's time. He forced the words down, forced the silence between them. Asterisk instead, he reached out, resting a calloused hand over hers. "Hold on just a little longer, please." She searched his face, as if trying to pierce the walls he'd built around himself. Finally, she nodded, but her eyes told him she didn't believe. That night, Kalen slipped away toward the hidden cavern. The salt plains stretched endlessly, white and barren under the twin moons. No one followed him, not visibly. But he moved with caution anyway, doubling back, watching every shadow dot inside the cavern. The shadow fleet whispered, Engines purred faintly as technicians tested folded space drives. Engineers crawled across dark halls, sealing armor that seemed to drink the light. The ships hung suspended in the cavern, like predators waiting for the hunt. Asterisk. Commander Ilara greeted him at the entry platform. Her mechanical arm whirred faintly as she crossed it over her chest. "They're watching you closer now," she said without preamble. "I know," Kalen replied. "Then keep them watching. We need the time." Her eyes flicked to the silent warships behind her. "Every hour counts," Kalen nodded. But before he could leave, Alara placed her metal hand on his shoulder. Her grip was firm, her gaze sharp. Asterisk. "Kalen, when this breaks open, when they finally see us, there's no going back. You understand that?" He met her gaze. "I've never wanted to go back." The next day, everything nearly unraveled. Kalen was walking Rin home through the salt-worn alleys when Dominion drones swooped low overhead, their red beams scanning the ground. Soldiers clattered after them, weapons drawn. The city held its breath as the patrol swept closer. Asterisk, search every corner. The lead officer barked. "Something moves beneath this city. We will find it." Kalen froze. His blood went cold. Had they found the cavern? He tugged Rin into a narrow passage, pressing her against the wall as the soldiers thundered past. She clutched his sleeve, whispering, "What are they looking for?" "Smugglers," Kalen lied quickly. "That's all." Asterisk. But Rin's sharp eyes caught the flicker in his. She studied him silently, and in that silence, Kalen felt his carefully built mask begin to crack. Hours later, when the streets finally quieted, Rin led him to her home. The small dwelling was dim, its walls lined with carved crystal that glowed faintly. She poured him water, set it before him, and then sat across the table. "Kalen," she said softly. "I saw it." His heart skipped. "Saw what?" Her gaze didn't waver. "Light under the salt cliffs, moving where nothing should move. I followed you once when you thought you were alone." Kellen's throat tightened. "You're hiding something down there," Rin whispered. "And I don't think it's smugglers." The room felt suddenly smaller, the walls pressing in. Kalen could hear Alara's warning echo in his skull. "Keep them blind." But Rin leaned forward, her voice trembling. "You fought for us. You've risked your life more than once. I trust you, Kalen. But if you trust me, then tell me the truth." Kellen's hand curled around the cup, knuckles white. He had lived through battles, through betrayals, through fire. But in that moment, he felt more vulnerable than he ever had before. Because if he told her the truth, there was no taking it back. Asterisk, a whisper of rebellion. The silence stretched between them. Kalen sat across from Rin, the weight of her gaze pressing down like a stone. Her words still hung in the air. "You're hiding something down there." His first instinct was denial. He could lie, laugh it off, keep the secret buried. But something in Rin's eyes, something fragile and fierce, held him still. She wasn't accusing. She was pleading God slowly. Kalen set the cup down. "What you saw, you can't repeat to anyone. Not even in whispers." Rin's crystalline. Hands curled into fists. "Then it's true." Kalen leaned forward, his voice low, every word carved in steel. "The Dominion wants you to believe Earth is finished, that we've been broken, that there's nothing left but ashes. They're wrong." He hesitated, then let the mask fall completely. "There's a fleet hidden beneath the cliffs. Ships the Dominion can't track, can't even sense. Humans built them in exile, forged from desperation. The Shadow Fleet." Rin's breath caught. For a moment she looked almost luminous, her translucent skin glowing faintly. "Ships here? All this time?" Kalen nodded, waiting for the right moment. waiting for the Dominion to make their move. Rin's voice trembled. "Why tell me?" "Because you already know too much," he said softly. "And because I trust you." The admission surprised him as much as her. Rin stared at him for a long time. Then she whispered, "My brother died believing there was no hope. If he had known this, if he had known you had this." She pressed her hand over her mouth, her shoulders shaking. Maybe he wouldn't have spoken out. Maybe Kalen reached across the table, gripping her arm. He spoke out because he was brave. Don't let them take that from him. Her luminous eyes met his. Something shifted in them, a spark, fragile but real. "I'll help you," she said. "Whatever you need." The next days moved in dangerous rhythm. Rin became Kellen's quiet ally, slipping him information from Orion networks the Dominion overlooked. The aliens trusted her far more than they did him, and she used that trust carefully. She learned which patrols rotated where, which storage depots were left lightly guarded, which communication relays the Dominion relied on. Every scrap mattered. Together, they began to disrupt the occupiers, not openly, but in whispers. One night, Kalen and Rin slipped into the shadow of a Dominion supply depot. The alien facility pulsed with crimson light, its walls alive with crawling glyphs. Drones circled the perimeter, scanning in sweeping arcs. Kalen crouched beside a broken wall, pulling a small, boxy device from his pack. Human-made, scarred but functional. Rin eyed it nervously. "What does it do?" "Mag pulse. Fries their drones for about 30 seconds. He grinned faintly, long enough to cause trouble. He pressed the trigger. A faint thump rippled through the air, silent to the ear, but violent to the machines. Overhead, the drones twitched, sparked, and dropped like stones. Kalen was already moving. He sprinted to the storage door, planting a shaped charge at its seam. The explosion was small, precise just enough to burst the lock. Inside, crates of Dominion weapons glimmered under crimson light. "Grab what you can," Kalen hissed. Rin stared at the alien rifles uncertainly. "I've never—" "Then start now." She lifted one awkwardly, her quartz-like skin catching the glow. Together, they hauled what they could before vanishing back into the alleys. Minutes later, Dominion soldiers stormed the depot, mandibles clattering in fury. But the thieves were gone. The stolen weapons ended up in the cavern, handed over to Shadow Fleet operatives, who could adapt them for human use. Each small act was a drop of blood drawn from the Dominion's hide. Not enough to win a war, but enough to make them bleed. Still, suspicion grew. A week later, Kalen was stopped by Dominion patrols in the middle of Kelmer Square. The officer's claws gripped his shoulder, dragging him forward as the crowd scattered. "You move like a shadow," the officer hissed, mandibles glistening. "Too much at night, too much alone. We will know what you hide." Kalen forced a broken laugh. "I'm human. You think I'd survive a fight with you? I drink, I walk, I sleep. That's all that's left of me." The officer's compound eyes searched him. Then, with sudden violence, a soldier backhanded him across the square. Kalen hit the ground hard, blood spattering the dust. Rin rushed forward, ignoring the guards. She knelt beside him, her glowing hands trembling as she pressed a cloth to his face. The officer sneered. "Protect him all you want. When Earth burns, he will be nothing but ash." Kalen spat blood, his voice hoarse. "We're harder to burn than you think." The officer's mandibles clicked in irritation. But instead of killing him, they shoved him back into the dirt and marched on. The crowd dispersed in silence, but Kalen felt their eyes linger on him differently. Not with suspicion this time, with something else. Something close to hope. That night, in the cavern, Commander Ilara listened to his report with tight lips. "They're moving quicker," she said. Their patrols are doubled, their scans stronger. They smell something. They don't know what, Caitlin replied. Alara's metal arm whirred as she tapped the table. Not yet. But time is running thin. Her eyes burned into his. If the Dominion declares the deadline, Caitlin cut her off. They already have. Tomorrow. The cavern went still. Technicians froze in place. Welders lowered their torches. Even the hum of the shadow fleet seemed to fade. Ilara's voice was a blade. Then tomorrow, they'll begin burning colonies. Rin, who had come with him into the cavern for the first time, stepped forward. Her crystalline skin shimmered. In the dim light, as she took in the warships, the impossible vessels that seemed carved from the void itself. So it's true, she whispered. The galaxy thinks you're broken, but you've been here all along. Ilara's gaze hardened. And now they'll find out what it means to underestimate us. The next morning, the Dominion broadcast filled the skies. A vast warship hovered over Kelmer, its hull blotting out the suns. From its belly, beams of crimson light carved symbols across the clouds. The voice of the Dominion echoed like thunder. People of Aurealis, Earth has not surrendered. The cycle ends. This world will burn first, as a lesson to all who resist. The Dominion. Panic swept the city. Aurialans clutched their children, their crystal skin trembling with refracted light. Families scattered, screams echoing through narrow streets. Rin grabbed Kellen's hand, her voice breaking. They'll destroy us. Everyone, what do we do? Kalen looked up at the burning sky, jaw clenched. His blood pounded like drums in. His ears, they wanted to see us bow. His voice was low, fierce. Instead, they'll see us fight. Asterisk fire in the sky, the city of Kelmer was chaos. Sirens shrieked through the streets as Dominion warships lowered in the sky, their hulls glowing, with fire that was not flame but energy, coiled and ready to burn. Shadows stretched across the white salt plains, and Aurealis trembled beneath the weight of its executioners. Families fled toward the lower caves, carrying what little they could. Mothers clutched children. Fathers dragged carts laden with food or nothing at all. The crystal towers of the city glowed faintly in terror, refracting the crimson light above. Rin and Kalen pushed through the panicked crowd. They'll start with the city core. Rin gasped, pulling him toward the central square. They always strike the densest population first. They want witnesses. Kellen's teeth ground together. He'd seen it before on Mars, on Titan's colonies, on the rings of Europa. The Dominion didn't kill quietly. They killed where the galaxy could see. But this time, things would be different. They reached the square just as the warship above began to charge. A deep, resonant hum shook the air. Crimson energy bled from its belly, coalescing into a beam. Asterisk the. Aurialans dropped to their knees, wailing, their crystal bodies glowing with despair. Kalen turned, scanning the horizon. He muttered under his breath, Ilara, now would be a good time. Beneath the salt cliffs, the shadow fleet stirred. Engines hummed in silence, folding dimensions around them. Stealth armor drank the light, rendering the ships as shifting voids. One by one, they disengaged their moorings, drifting toward the surface tunnels. Commander Ilara stood at the helm of the flagship Nightfall, her steel arm gripping the command rail. Her voice was calm, sharp, and merciless. Fleet status? All ships ready, came the reply. Fold stable. Weapons. Charged. Then it's time. Ilara's eyes narrowed. Launch the Shadow Fleet. Above Kelmer, just as the Dominion warship prepared to fire, the air itself tore open. Space rippled like shattered glass. From the cracks in reality, the Shadow Fleet emerged, dot-black hulls darker than the void. Shapes that seemed alive, prowling, silent hunters slipping into the world. They appeared without warning, without light, without sound until their weapons ignited. Blue-white lances of energy slashed across the sky, ripping through the Dominion cruiser before it could fire. Armor that had withstood centuries of conquest shattered like brittle glass. The warship screamed as its core imploded, detonating in a blossom of fire. The city gasped as one. Rin's eyes went wide, her luminous skin glowing bright with reflected fire. "By the suns," she whispered. Kellen's grin was feral. "Told you we don't bow." The battle erupted in full. Dozens of Dominion ships broke formation, their crimson beams carving through the clouds. But the Shadow Fleet danced among them, flickering in and out of folded space. They struck from impossible angles, vanishing before counterfire could land. The nightfall speared another cruiser through the heart, its stealth torpedoes phasing through shields before detonating. Inside the hull, Oriolans crowded the streets, staring upward in disbelief. For generations, they had believed the Dominion unstoppable. Yet here, now, human ships were carving through their oppressors, like predators in a herd. The impossible was happening. Kalen pulled Rin into cover as Dominion dropships descended into the streets, soldiers spilling out to massacre the civilians. "Stay." "Behind me," he barked, drawing a battered human rifle from beneath his coat. The insectoid soldiers shrieked, their mandibles clattering as they opened fire. Bolts of crimson scorched the walls around them. Kalen returned fire with deadly precision, dropping one, then another. Rin crouched low, her crystalline hands trembling. She spotted a fallen Dominion rifle nearby, its glowing stock still humming. She reached for it. "Rin, don't," Kalen shouted, but it was too late. She squeezed the trigger awkwardly, the weapon bucking against her quartz-like arm. The shot went wide, but the second didn't. One of the soldiers fell, black ichor spraying across the stone. Rin's hands shook violently, her luminous eyes wide. But Kalen caught her gaze and nodded once. "Good. Now keep shooting." Together, they fought through the burning square as Shadow Fleet ships above hammered the Dominion line. Inside the nightfall, Commander Ilara's voice cut through the chaos. "Status? 5 Dominion cruisers destroyed, 3 disabled. Enemy reinforcements inbound. Keep the pressure. Every second we hold, every strike we land, is one more reminder. Humanity is not finished." Her steel arm tightened on the rail as she watched another Dominion battleship rupture under a swarm of Shadow Fleet torpedoes. The sight was brutal, glorious, but she knew the cost. For every Dominion cruiser they destroyed, 2 more prowled the edge of the system. And soon, the Dominion would realize this wasn't a raid. This was defiance. On the ground, Kalen and Rin reached the steps of the central spire where Dominion soldiers had cornered a cluster of civilians. The aliens raised their weapons, claws twitching. "Down!" Kalen roared, tackling Rin aside as crimson fire tore the air. He rolled, raised his rifle, and shot 3 in the chest before they could turn. Rin lifted the captured rifle again, her aim steadier now, and fired. 2 more fell. The last soldier hissed and lunged at her with a jagged blade. Kalen surged forward, slamming into the creature. The blade sliced across his shoulder, hot pain lancing through him, but he rammed his knife under its mandibles and drove it home. The soldier convulsed, ichor spraying, then fell limp. Kalen staggered, blood dripping from his shoulder. Rin caught him, her glowing skin streaked with ash. "Are you? I'll live," he growled, "but they'll wish they hadn't come." Above them, another Dominion cruiser exploded, its wreckage raining fire across the salt plains. Crowd below erupted in gasps and cries, not of fear this time, but of awe. The Oriolans were watching Kalen fight. Watching humanity fight. And for the first time in living memory, they believed the Dominion could bleed. The battle raged on through the night. When dawn broke, The sky was littered with the wrecks of Dominion ships, their broken hulls smoldering as they fell into the plains. Shadow Fleet losses were heavy, but they had held the line. Aurealis still stood. Kalen stood on the spire's balcony, his shoulder bandaged, watching the sun rise over the burning horizon. Rin stood beside him silent, her crystalline skin refracting the new light. For the first time, hope glimmered in her luminous eyes. "You did it," she whispered. "You actually did it." Kalen shook his head. "No, this was just the opening." Shot. His eyes darkened as he looked skyward, toward the stars where more Dominion fleets would soon arrive. "They'll come back," he said. Stronger, angrier. Rin turned to him. "Then what do we do?" Kellen's jaw tightened. "We show them we're not afraid. And we make the galaxy remember what it means to fight alongside humans." The mask of fear the fires burned for. 2 days. Wreckage from Dominion warships lay scattered across the salt plains, smoldering craters glowing like wounds in the earth. The people of Kelmer walked among the ruins in disbelief, their crystalline skin refracting the strange new light of hope. For the first time in living memory, they had seen their oppressors defeated, and at the heart of their whispers was one. Word passed from tongue to tongue like a secret prayer. Humans. Kalen walked the streets with his arm in a sling, his shoulder still raw from the blade wound. Everywhere he went, Oriolans looked at him differently. No longer with suspicion. No longer with pity. They looked at him as if he were fire itself, dangerous, unstoppable, alive. Children followed him at a distance, their glowing bodies casting pale light across the alleys. Old men nodded as he passed. Merchants offered him food without asking, for payment. But with hope came danger. The Dominion was not gone. They had merely been wounded. And Kalen knew wounded predators were always the most dangerous dot inside the hidden cavern. The Shadow Fleet was licking its wounds. Ships that had emerged, victorious, now hung scarred and battered, their stealth armor scorched. Engineers crawled over them like ants, welding new plates, sealing hull breaches, recalibrating folded space drives. Commander Alara stood over a holomap, her steel arm folded across her chest. "They'll regroup," she said flatly. "We bloodied them, but the Dominion doesn't retreat forever. When they return, it'll be with a fleet 10 times this size." Kalen leaned against the rail, his injured shoulders stiff. "Then we need to hit them before they hit us." Ilara's dark eyes flicked to him. "And lose what little we've gained?" "No. We hold here. We make Aurealis the line they cannot cross." "Asterisk. That's a mistake," Kalen shot back. "If we sit still, they'll bury us in fire. We need to move, keep them chasing shadows, make them doubt what they see." The room went tense. A dozen officers turned their heads, watching the human challenge their commander, but Alara didn't snap. She studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "You may be right." Her voice hardened. "But remember this. Every choice we make now decides not just the fate of Aurealis, but the fate of every colony that still dares to hope Earth is alive. If we fall here, the galaxy falls with us." Kalen said nothing. He just nodded grimly. Asterisk that. Night, Kalen and Rin sat on the roof of her home, watching the stars burn faintly above. "They look different now," Rin said softly. Kalen tilted his head. "The stars?" She nodded. "Before, they were cold, distant, just silent witnesses while the Dominion ruled us. But now they look closer, brighter, like maybe they're watching something new." Kalen smiled faintly. "They're watching us." Rin's luminous eyes turned to him. "You gave my people something we thought was impossible. You gave us hope." Asterisk. Kalen looked away, his jaw tightening. "Hope is dangerous. The Dominion will try to kill it before it spreads." Rin touched his arm gently, her crystal-like hand. cool against his skin. Then we fight harder. Kaelin met her gaze, and for a moment the war faded. The noise, the blood, the fear. For a moment there was only her, luminous in the starlight. The moment shattered the next day. Kaelin woke to the sound of a broadcast echoing through the city. He staggered into the square, where Oriolans stood frozen, staring up at the hovering Dominion screens. On them, Rin's face appeared. Asterisk, her hands were bound. Her crystalline skin was cracked and bruised, glowing faintly under the harsh red light of a Dominion cell. Behind her, alien guards loomed. A voice boomed across the city. Asterisk. People of Aurealis, the human among you has poisoned your minds with lies. He claims Earth still lives. He claims resistance is possible. These are falsehoods. And this creature, the camera panned closer to Rin's trembling form, has conspired with him. She will be executed at dawn unless the human surrenders himself to Dominion command. The screen went black. Silence crushed the square. Kaelin felt his chest tighten, his hands trembling at his sides. Rin was gone, taken, and it was his fault. Shadow Fleet's cavern erupted in argument when Kaelin stormed inside. Elara, we have to move now, he barked, slamming his fist on the table. They have her. Commander Ilara's gaze was cold. They have bait. Kellen's jaw tightened. She's not bait. She's my friend. She's leverage, Ilara snapped. The Dominion knows you're valuable. If they can draw you out, they cripple us. Kaelin leaned across the table, his voice a low growl. Then let them try. But I'm not leaving her. Ilara's steel-arm whirred as she pressed her palm against the table. If you walk into their hands, Kaelin, you doom us all. Not if I take her back first. For a long moment, the cavern was silent. Officers shifted uneasily. Engineers paused mid-task, watching the standoff. Finally, Ilara exhaled slowly. You're a stubborn bastard. Kellen's lips twitched in a humorless smile. I'm human. Ilara turned to one of her lieutenants. Give him what he needs. A small team. No more than 5. If he fails, we lose nothing. If he succeeds. Her eyes met Kellen's. Then maybe you're right. Maybe hope is worth bleeding for. That night, Kaelin prepared for the mission. He loaded weapons, checked charges, tightened the straps of his armor. His wounded shoulder ached with every motion, but he ignored it. A small team of Shadow Fleet operatives gathered at his side, scarred men and women, faces hard, eyes fierce. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and out of time. But none hesitated. As Kaelin slung his rifle over his back, one of the operatives asked quietly, Sir, why risk everything for one alien? Kaelin paused, staring into the dark. Then he said simply, Because if we don't fight for each other, we're no better than the Dominion. On the other side of the system, Rin knelt in her cell, her crystal, skin dimmed with exhaustion. She could feel the fear of execution gnawing at her. But beneath it, stronger than fear, was something else. Hope got, because she knew Kaelin. And she knew he wouldn't leave her. Asterisk into the maw. The Shadow Fleet gunship cut through the void like a phantom. Its hull shimmered with adaptive cloaking, bending starlight around it. Inside, Kaelin sat strapped into his harness, rifle across. His knees. The silence pressed heavy on the Team 6 humans and 1 Oriolan pilot, all breathing shallowly, hearts pounding. The target was a Dominion prison ship, the Neuraxis, a leviathan of iron and cruelty, orbiting the gas giant Talvaran. It looked less like a vessel and more like a scar carved into the night. Spines of black metal stretched outwards, bristling with weapons and docking arms. And somewhere inside it, Rin waited for death. Kaelin stared at the holomap flickering above the console. She'll be in the execution block. Sector 9. The pilot, a wiry man with half his face scarred, shook his head. Sector 9 is crawling with guards. If we go in hot, we won't make it out. Kellen's jaw tightened. Then we don't go in hot. He tapped the holla. Here, the waste. Vents. Dominion ships cycle their radiation filters every 2 hours. If we time it right, we can slip inside before the cycle seals. The others exchange uneasy glances. One muttered, "That's suicide." Kalen looked up, eyes burning. "So is leaving her." No one argued again. They launched. The gunship glided under the shadow of Talveron's massive rings. Its engines whisper quiet. The prison ship loomed above them, blotting out the stars. Kellen's pulse hammered as they approached the waste. Vents massive grates pulsing with heat and energy discharge. "Timing now," the pilot muttered. Kellen's eyes never left the glowing cycle markers. 3, 2, 1. Now, the gunship dove. For one heart-stopping instant, the vents blazed open, spewing waste radiation into the void. The pilot shoved the engines forward, threading the needle between death and disaster. The ship plunged into darkness just as the vents sealed behind them. They were inside, the team split, moving through narrow maintenance tunnels, reeking of scorched metal. Their cloaks shimmered faintly in the red emergency lights, making them wraiths in the dark. Kalen led from the front, rifle raised, every step quiet and deliberate. He remembered the Dominion's cruelty too well, their prisons, their executions, their propaganda. He had escaped once, long ago. This time he wasn't running. They reached a bulkhead. Beyond it, Sector 9. Kalen gave the signal. 2 operatives. Rigged charges. The blast was surgical, a hiss of flame and smoke. And then chaos. Dominion guards surged forward, towering reptilian creatures with armored hides and shock lances. Kalen didn't hesitate. His rifle spat blue-white bolts, cutting down the first 2 before they could sound alarms. His team followed, a storm of firepower in the narrow hall. "Go!" Kalen barked. They tore through the corridors, dropping. Guards slicing through bulkheads, leaving only silence and smoke in their wake. Finally, they reached the execution chamber. Rin knelt on the platform, chains binding her glowing wrists. Above her, an execution drone hummed, its blades gleaming. Dominion officers stood in a circle, chanting in their guttural tongue. The blast doors erupted inward. Kalen stormed through, rifle roaring. "Down!" He shouted. The operatives poured fire into the chamber. Dominion guards shrieked as they fell, the room filling with smoke and heat. Kalen cut his way through, leaping onto the platform, driving his boot into the chest of the executioner. "Kalen," Rin gasped. He fired point-blank into the drone, shattering it into molten shards. "Hold still." His voice was harsh, his hands trembling as he blasted her chains free. When her glowing form collapsed against him, Kellen's chest tightened. She was alive. Bruised, broken, but alive. "You came," she whispered. "Always." He rasped, but their escape was already collapsing. Asterisk sirens howled. Bulkheads slammed shut. The Neuraxis roared to life as its full arsenal awakened. Kellen's COM crackled. "Shadow 1, we've got hostiles inbound from every corridor. Cut off in 2 minutes." Kalen lifted Rin to her feet, gripping her hand tight. "Then we fight through." The team moved as one, carving a path back toward the vents. The corridors became slaughterhouses, gunfire, screams, and smoke filling every step. One operative went down, dragged screaming into the dark by Dominion claws. Another fell covering the flank, detonating grenades that shook the ship's hull. By the time they reached the vent access, only 3 remained. Kalen, Rin, and the scarred pilot. The vents were sealing. "Go!" Kalen shouted, shoving Rin toward the hatch. Asterisk, the pilot boosted her forward. "I'll hold them." Kalen grabbed his arm. No, but the pilot just grinned, scarred face lit by fire. Tell Earth I died well. He shoved Kalen and Rin into the hatch and turned back with guns blazing. The last thing Kalen saw was his silhouette swallowed in Dominion fire. And then the vents sealed, propelling them into the void. The gunship was gone, destroyed in the fighting. Kalen and Rin floated in space, their suits' life support ticking. Down, the prison ship loomed behind them, Dominion vessels already swarming like hornets. Rin's voice shook. We're stranded. Kellen's jaw clenched. His HUD flickered. A faint signal. A beacon. Alara, he whispered Dot from the darkness of the gas giant's shadow. Ships emerged. Black, silent, deadly. The Shadow Fleet. They tore into the Dominion swarm with ghostly precision, ripping warships apart before vanishing back into the dark. A corvette swooped close, hatch yawning open. Hands reached out, dragging Kalen and Rin inside just as their oxygen failed. They had made it. Barely. Rin awoke in the medbay, her wounds bound, her light glowing faintly. Kalen sat beside her, battered and bloodied. You're safe, he murmured Dot, her crystalline eyes filled with tears. You risked everything for me. Kalen shook his head. Not just for you. For what you represent. For what the Dominion fears most. She frowned softly. And what is that? Kalen leaned back, his eyes dark. Hope. But hope was fragile. The Shadow Fleet intercepted Dominion transmissions. The enemy was enraged, humiliated. The destruction of their prison ship, the rescue, the spreading rumors of humanity's survival. It was too much to ignore. The Dominion was mobilizing ***, not just a fleet, not just a battalion, their entire war armada. A storm of ships so vast it blotted out stars. And they were coming for Aurealis. The last dawn. The people of Aurealis had always lived under shadow. Shadow of the Dominion. Shadow of chains. Shadow of fear. But now, as Kalen and Rin stood together on the high spire of the capital citadel, they saw a new shadow stretching across the skies, vast, black, endless, the Dominion Armada. It was beyond anything Kalen had imagined. Not a fleet, but a moving continent of war. Carriers the size of cities. Dreadnoughts with cannons that could split moons. Swarms of interceptors blotting out the stars. The air itself seemed to tremble. As the armada drew near, its sheer mass warping the horizon, the Aurilan people gathered in the streets below, staring upward in silence, their crystalline bodies glowing faintly with terror. Some whispered prayers. Others fell to their knees. Beside Kalen, Rin's light flickered. We can't fight this. Not even your Shadow Fleet can stand against that. Kellen's jaw tightened. He had seen armies break. He had seen worlds burn. And he knew fear was the Dominion's first and most powerful weapon. They think we'll surrender, he said softly. They think humanity is broken, scattered. They've never seen what happens when we're cornered. Rin turned to him, voice trembling. Then what do we do? Kellen's gaze hardened. We show them the one thing they never understand. She whispered, What's that? Human defiance. The gathering storm, the Shadow Fleet emerged from Aurealis's rings, hundreds of ships, sleek and black, slipping out of nothingness. They moved like predators, their cloaks shimmering, engines whisper quiet, but compared to the Dominion Armada, they were insects before a mountain. On the command ship Oblivion, Admiral Alara's voice cut through the comms. All units hold. Formation. We are vastly outnumbered, but remember, our enemy has numbers. We have something greater. We have the will of Earth. The fleet answered with a single thunderous transmission. For Earth, for humanity. The words rippled through Aurealis. Like fire, for the first time in generations, the Oriolans raised their glowing heads and shouted as one. For Earth! For humanity! First clashed the Dominion Armada opened fire. Beams of annihilation lanced across the void, tearing through asteroids, burning atmosphere. Entire mountains on Aurealis cracked beneath the bombardment. The Shadow Fleet answered. They did not fight like a normal navy. They struck like ghosts vanishing, reappearing, cutting through supply lines, gutting capital ships before slipping back into shadow. Kalen and Rin watched from the Citadel balcony as fire rained across. The sky. The night was gone. The heavens were aflame. Every shadow ship destroyed is one less chance for Earth's survival. Kalen muttered. We can't win by force alone. Rin's crystalline hand touched his. Then how? Kalen turned too. Her, by breaking their belief. The broadcast they moved quickly, descending into the Citadel's ancient chambers. There, Rin activated the world beacon and Oriolan relic, capable of transmitting across the galaxy. For centuries, it had been silent, sealed by Dominion decree. Now, for the first time, it roared to life. Kalen stood before its light, battle-scarred, weary but unbroken. His image spread not just to Aurealis, but across Dominion-controlled space. Billions saw his face. Billions heard his voice. My name is Kalen, he began. I am human. We were told Earth was gone. We were told to surrender, to kneel, to forget who we are. The Dominion said we were broken. He lifted his head, eyes burning. They were wrong. Humanity lives. We endure. We rise. And we do not stand alone. Rin stepped beside him, her crystalline form blazing brighter than ever. We are Oriolans. We were slaves. But today, because of humanity, we are free. And we will never kneel. Again, her words rippled through the stars. On conquered worlds, alien slaves paused in their labor, staring in awe. In mines, in factories, and the darkest prisons, whispers spread like wildfire. Humanity lives. Humanity fights. Humanity is hope. Turning point, the Dominion commanders raged. Their fleets pressed harder, fury doubling their assault. But something had shifted. On Aurealis, civilians took up arms, striking back against occupation forces. Across the galaxy, uprisings ignited. Dominion troops found themselves surrounded not just by soldiers, but by the people they had enslaved dot in space. Shadow Fleet fought with renewed ferocity, every pilot knowing billions were watching. Every strike became a message. We are not broken. Still, the cost was immense. Shadow ships burned, crews died, and the Armada pressed closer. On the Oblivion, Admiral Ilara's voice broke through the comms. Kalen, Rin, we've done what we can. The Dominion dreadnought Imperius is moving into firing range. If it unleashes its main cannon, Aurealis will be ash. We need a miracle. Kalen looked at Rin. She nodded once, no words. Just trust Dot into the fire. The Shadow Fleet carved a path, opening a corridor toward the Imperius. Kalen and Rin boarded a strike ship, engines screaming as they dove into the teeth of the Armada. The Imperius was a monster larger than mountains, armored like a god. Its main cannon pulsed with energy, charging for planetary annihilation. Kellen's hands shook on the controls. We won't survive this run. Rin's light glowed brighter, wrapping around him like a shield. Then let us die as humans do. Defiant, but Kalen shook his head. No, we don't die today. We make them afraid. The final gambit as the strike ship weaved through fire. Kalen activated the ship's black box core, a forbidden relic of Earth. Within it lay fragments of technology the Dominion had never seen, designed for one purpose: annihilation through ingenuity. The plan was madness. The core would overload, ripping space itself apart in a localized tear, enough to cripple even the Imperius. But only if planted inside the cannon chamber. Manual delivery, Kalen muttered. We'll have to fly it in ourselves. Rin touched his face, crystalline tears falling. Together then. They breached the hull. Fighting hand-to-hand through Dominion corridors, they cut their way to the cannon's heart. Dominion soldiers fell before them, Kellen's rifle burning, Rin's light searing like a blade dot. At last they reached the chamber. A cathedral of death, the cannon's core pulsing like a sun. Kalen set the black box. The timer blinked red, 90. Seconds. The chamber shook as Dominion reinforcements poured in. Kalen and Rin fought back to back, every second an eternity. Bolts tore into Kellen's armor, blood soaking his chest. Rin's glow dimmed under the onslaught. 60 seconds. Kellen's rifle clicked empty. He swung it like a club, snarling. Rin's light burst outward, shattering Dominion soldiers into ash, but each burst drained her life. 30 seconds. The last soldier fell. Kalen collapsed to one knee, coughing blood. Rin cradled him, her glow faint, flickering. You'll die. She whispered. He smiled weakly. Then humanity dies fighting. The tear in the sky, the black box detonated. A scream of light and shadow ripped through the Imperius. Space itself shuddered, folding inward. The dreadnought's cannon imploded, dragging the ship into a spiraling maw of nothingness. The Armada reeled in shock. Their god ship destroyed. Their invincibility dash shattered. The Shadow Fleet seized the moment. Striking like wolves, they gutted Dominion carriers, shattered command ships, scattered formations. The Dominion Armada broke. Not all at once, but like ice-cracking splinters, spreading until the whole vast structure collapsed. And for the first time in centuries, the Dominion retreated. Aftermath. Kellen awoke days later in the medbay of the Oblivion. His chest burned, his body broken but alive. Rin sat beside him, her hand in his. Her glow was faint but steady. She had survived. They're gone, she whispered. The Dominion pulled back. Entire worlds are rising against them. The galaxy believes again. Kalen exhaled slowly. For the first time in his life, he allowed himself a small smile. Good, he murmured. But this is only the beginning. Rin tilted her head. You mean the war? Kalen looked out the viewport, where the stars burned bright and endless. No, humanity's return. Epilogue, legacy on 1,000 worlds. The story spread. Of a man who defied an empire. Of a fleet that struck from shadow. Of humanity, thought extinct, rising from ashes to challenge the galaxy's greatest tyrants. Children whispered his name. Soldiers painted Earth's broken circle on their armor. Entire races took up arms, inspired by a species that refused to kneel. And in the quiet halls of Aurealis, Kalen stood with Rin, gazing at the dawn. Do you think Earth will ever rise again? She asked softly. Kellen's eyes burned with fire. It already has.